is Lily.
And Lindsay.
And Hero is here with us as well this evening. And we're going to walk another self-forgiveness video together. And this is also going out to those that are starting and beginning with their process. And I'm certain that many even experience this within and during their processes when self-forgiveness has been postponed for quite some time and then having to get back into it. The self-forgiveness that we're walking this evening is self-forgiveness about self-forgiveness, which is one's initial reactions or resistances to walking, applying, speaking, writing self-forgiveness. Okay, so we're going to speak. We'll start, and then Lindsay will follow, and we'll go back and forth for a moment, just to give a initial perspective in relation to how to approach self-forgiveness in the beginning, especially self-forgiveness about self-forgiveness. Okay, so let's begin. I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to experience massive resistance towards having to write or speak self-forgiveness.
I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to postpone self-forgiveness, and to within a moment of seeing self-forgiveness that requires to be applied, to put it off to the point where it builds up a resistance, a reaction, and then I make self-forgiveness into this entity that becomes larger than myself that I hide from.
I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to experience uncomfortability towards self-forgiveness, not realizing, seeing, and understanding that my resistance and uncomfortability that I experience within and towards self-forgiveness is in fact me, to a certain extent, knowing that I will be changing through and as self-forgiveness, and thus the resistance and uncomfortability is actually a self-manipulation and protection and defense mechanism for me to protect and defend my personalities, my self-definitions, my who I ams, instead of me assisting and supporting myself in my process of self-change through self-realization, which can only be done through self-forgiveness.
I forgive myself that I have accepted and allowed myself to create and perpetuate and generate a point of shame in relation to not speaking or writing self-forgiveness as a point of ego within, oh, I'm such a bad person, oh, I'm not writing my self-forgiveness, oh, I should be doing this self-forgiveness as a point of a chore for myself, instead of actually speaking and writing self-forgiveness as a self-corrective movement to support myself to become an effective human being in this world, not constricted by energy manipulation.
I forgive myself that I haven't accepted and allowed myself to see, realize, and understand that the process of self-change is not something that is going to come in a McDonald's immediacy or as a miracle from Jesus or angels, because how I have accepted and allowed myself to create myself has been through a process of time in the space-time continuum, through a mind consciousness system that have accumulated and pre-programmed into my personalities and self-definitions that I experience myself to be. And thus that in walking self-forgiveness, it is my practical process of walking through how I pre-program myself in the first place to get to know who I am and how I am and what I am, and to within that insight, realization, and seeing, be able to assist and support myself to in fact change me, where my living becomes within self-awareness in every moment of breath, where I am in moments, as every moment with every breath, aware of who I am, how I am, and what I am, and no more accepting and allowing pre-programming. And therefore why I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to approach self-forgiveness with resistance, with uncomfortability, with frustration, because I realize, see, and understand, in fact, that I know that this is the key, the point to change, and I resist change because I have made myself believe and perceive that living pre-programmed automation is easier than being and living within self-awareness. But within that, I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to not see, realize, and understand that the manifested consequence as events that happen within my world and my reality is in fact my own creation, and that within forgiveness I will start seeing, realizing, and understanding how it is that I in fact create me in my world, and no more have to follow and fall into manifested consequence, but start directing myself and my world within and as what is best for all.
I forgive myself that I have accepted and allowed myself to create an experience of feeling stupid for having to speak self-forgiveness within the statement of, why do I have to speak self-forgiveness? Why do I have to be fucked up? Wherein I'm creating a situation for myself where I feel like I am flawed, not realizing that this entire construct, this entire mind in itself and what it perpetuates in this world is what needs correction, and self-forgiveness is the way to correct myself so that I am no longer at the whim of my mind and enslaving myself.
I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to make myself think, believe, or perceive that self-forgiveness is too simple, too petty, too unstructured, too unspecific, not in a Jesus angel form to come and help save and rescue me. And therefore I've accepted and allowed myself to judge self-forgiveness because of my hopes, dreams, desires, wants, and needs for someone to save me, to help me from myself, instead of realizing, seeing, and understand that I am and can only be my only savior, rescuer, miracle, so to speak, within me taking that step of taking self-responsibility for who I am within myself, because it is in fact only me that is existing within myself here, my human physical body, with my own mind consciousness system to direct and to deal with. And I forgive myself that I haven't accepted and allowed myself to see, realize, and understand that nothing and no one can help me. I can only help myself.
I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to fear what others will think about me if they hear me or see me or come across my writing of self-forgiveness. And within that fearing the judgment I may get from other people, without seeing, realizing, and understanding that self-forgiveness is not in the grand scheme socially acceptable, as it is a point wherein we are facing ourselves as what we have accepted and allowed, and it's not a pretty thing, and it's going to cause reactions, and it's going to cause reactions within ourselves and within our world and reality. And thus I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to fear self-forgiveness, to fear who I may become if I let go of what others think about me.
I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to, within the walking, applying, and speaking of self-forgiveness, in fact fear coming face to face with what I already know is existing within me that I've hidden in secrecy. And within that, I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to have a fear of myself take me over and possess me, from accepting and allowing myself to walk through self-forgiveness and actually face myself word by word, sentence by sentence, step by step, and to trust myself that I have breath, I am here, and that I am ready to assist and support myself, to walk through me as my mind, to get to know me, to be able to change me. And within this, I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to, within and through all this time within existence, accept and allow that very fear of myself to stop me from changing me for the better of me as all, as one, as equal.
I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to deny myself self-care and self-love within actually taking self-responsibility for who I am and who I've accepted and allowed myself to be, within my world and reality and existence as a whole.
Okay, everyone, so here are some example statements of self-forgiveness and applying self-forgiveness of self-forgiveness, and to assist and support oneself to not accept and allow those excuses, justifications, validations, and fear to stand in one's way of getting to know self, equal to and one with how self created self in the first place, which was through words as thoughts. So now the process of self-forgiveness is walking self back in time within one's mind consciousness system to get to know self, to take that point of responsibility and power to be able to change self from the chains that we have shackled ourselves into and as the mind and personalities and self-definitions. Okay. Thank you very much.